the Chase Thomas podcast for people who have nothing but time to kill.
I hear you, but I'm just gonna go get 19 more 5 stars. Like, I don't think it was meant as serious as a lot of folks thought it was, because I think Kirby respects Dan, and I mean also Dan beat Kirby, and like Dan's one of the best college football coaches of the last 20 years.
Beat him once.
Yeah, he beat him. Not many people have beat Kirby Smart in the last 5 years, sir.
That's fair.
No, Dan Mullen, just the revisionist history on Dan Mullen, I just won't stand for. Great coach of the last 20 years. Got Mississippi State #1 in the college football playoff rankings. Like, leave Dan Mullen alone. Speaking of Dan Mullen, and when I say speaking of, not speaking of at all, because I need to transition to the Tennessee Volunteers and the Kentucky Wildcats, sir, where the Tennessee Volunteers...
Two teams that used to play against Dan Mullen.
Exactly. And I actually was like, when the coaching search, I was like, I wouldn't hate Dan Mullen at the point, not 3 years ago, but, you know, looking years back is like, that wouldn't have been a bad one for during the Shiano days, whatever. Matt Green.
Pruitt days?
Well, I'm saying before Pruitt, like in the Shiano fiasco, and all that. Like that Dan Mullen from Mississippi State would have been a good one, because I think a lot of Tennessee fans also wanted Mike Leach back in the day. Like that was the one, and that would have been pretty good for a while, but that is neither here nor there. Matt Green. The Tennessee Volunteers, they beat Kentucky late. Big final drive from Dylan Sampson to lead the Vols to victory late. This was interesting because I did not feel good throughout this entirety of this game. It had all the ingredients for a unbearable Tennessee road SEC loss, and they were on a little streak here, losing multiple road SEC games in a row. And it just kind of reminded me of Florida a little bit early on, with some issues and like some just not finishing in the red zone, not building a big enough lead on the road, and also the secondary just not being able to get this defense off the field. Like the pass rush was non-existent. You had one total sack, weren't able to get home all day long on Kentucky. So Devin Leary just had all day in the pocket, and he was just slicing and dicing Tennessee's secondary, and that's just been the story for the last 3 years. Like, it's just when the pass rush is not getting home, it's rough for this group. But on the flip side, they just don't. The run defense is just it never ceases to fail. Like, Ray Davis had nothing for Tennessee in this one, so I thought that was going to be the case. Like, Tennessee is just so good in the run defense over the last 2 years, and that came up big again here. But also, Joe Milton played the best game of his Tennessee career in this one. He ran the ball well. He saw the field well. He had a big explosive play to Chaz Nimrod down the left-hand side. He was really good. Didn't have a turnover. He was throwing on the run, which is something we hadn't seen really to this point. And the tale of two halves was like Jalen Wright, the big run in the first quarter, set the tone, but also Dylan Sampson and Jalen Wright is a dynamic duo, and Tennessee is just a run-first team. And with Joe now running with the football a whole lot more, they have an identity, and they are playing smash mouth, run it down your throat football. And you can beat Kentucky with that. You can get to 9-3 playing the way they do, because there still is limitations with the passing game. But when you're able to run as successfully, where Jalen Wright, we're now going into November, and he's averaging over 7 yards a carry, which is just bonkers. Dylan Sampson, almost 6 at this point. Like, Tennessee has their identity. It doesn't matter if it's Texas A&M's front. It doesn't matter if it's Kentucky's front, who are both good rush defenses coming into this game. Tennessee is going to win that battle, and they're going to win that battle every single week. So I think that's big. This is a big win for the program too. Is you needed to stop the slide. You could have seen the wheels come off a little bit here if you don't get this win, because then you're staring at. I mean, you get UConn at home, which is a dub, but then at Mizzou is a big win that you need to avoid, like 7-5, and a huge drop off in year 3. So I think this was a sneaky huge win for the program to keep this thing moving in the right direction, and to be looking at 9-3 and feel really good about it. Because before the year, every Tennessee fan just wanted 9-3. This was the gap year before Nico and company, and if you can get to 9-3, then that's a huge win. If you split Mizzou and Georgia, and I think that's where Tennessee is at this spot. And I mean, Kentucky I will just go ahead and say, should have won this game. Devin Leary was able to do whatever he wanted. Tennessee had a bunch of penalties. Kentucky was not penalized. So that was the other thing. Tennessee fans are getting a bad rap because they have complained a lot about officiating for the last 2 weeks. Matt Green, would you like to guess how many in-game penalties Kentucky and Alabama had in the last 2 weeks against the University of Tennessee?
Oh boy.
What would you guess?
What Alabama, like 2, right?
Alabama had 0.
Oh, 5 total penalties.
Nope. Try it again.
I don't know. You tell me.
It's 0. There have been 0 in-game penalties from the Kentucky Wildcats and Alabama Crimson Tide.
Penalties? Is that what's the distinction?
Like not
there?
pre-snap, no false start or anything. I'm talking like no pass interference, no holding, no anything. Like once the play has started.
Man, those teams are playing a clean game.
Maybe. That might be it. What was your takeaway?
Well, this was my one of my upset picks of the day.
Oh, that's right.
I will not apologize for this one though, because I felt good about this upset pick. Like you said, almost happened. Really wish they would have gone for it late there. Could have at least covered, but instead they chose the field goal. And I'm not sure they got the ball
amazing
back
runoff.
Did Tennessee just run the clock out completely after that?
Well, no, they had a runoff because they faked an injury and it backfired because then it was a 10-second runoff and then Tennessee could run the whole clock out. So that's what Tennessee did to end the game. So Kentucky fell over and the injury because I looked at my father-in-law and I was like, I think that's going to be a 10-second runoff. I think the game's over. I don't think everyone knows that the game's over now, so they didn't get a chance. But yeah, you hold Tennessee to 72 yards rushing, especially at home. Kentucky,
like that's what'd I say?
You said Tennessee to
70, holding Kentucky to 72 yards rushing. That's obviously a huge accomplishment. But do you have to be concerned about Devin Leary having just absolutely his game of the season? Like,
no, we're everybody's game of the season on the road. Like that's just how this works. I don't care if it's Spencer Rattler, Graham Mertz, whoever. Like this is part of the territory. Like you're gonna give your congratulations, folks. Like Mizzou, Brady Cook, you need to just be rubbing those hands together, getting all excited about what you're going to do because Tennessee's going to have to score like 45 to beat Mizzou in 2 weeks. Like Mizzou is going to light Tennessee up. Like Brady Cook is going to light this secondary and this defense up in 2 weeks.
But one thing you said is Joe Milton. I think like for Kentucky, obviously they lost Tennessee, they obviously lost last week and Joe Milton felt like he played one of his best games of the season. And this, like you're saying, maybe was his best game of the season. And so he's obviously playing well. Having the added dimension of him actually being a factor in the run game, I feel like that makes their offense just that much more dangerous. But yeah, I think we have kind of, I feel like there's a narrative, a lot of scoreboard watching with Missouri, Kentucky a week ago. Like Missouri just blasted them. Like that was a close game into the fourth quarter. So I think Missouri definitely pulled away. But I think these 3 teams right here, Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee, I think they're all kind of, vying for that second team in the East right now.
Yeah, and I mean we'll figure it out for sure in 2 weeks, and then who knows? Like I hope.
I guess Kentucky's obviously behind them. They just lost
Kentucky's behind them. But I would say, like, I think for this pod's sake, it's better for the pod is that if Mizzou beats Georgia this week and then Tennessee beats Mizzou, and then you're in a scenario where the game in Neyland decides the East at that point.
But the more realistic has got to be Ole Miss, I think, beating Georgia than...
I just don't think Georgia's losing at home. Like, I just think it's going to be
Missouri's at home, too.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's happening. I hope so. That's what I'm saying. It's like my wishful thinking, because if that game decides the East, I mean, Neyland's going to be rocking no matter what, but I'll be in the building, Matt Green, ready for the Georgia takeover in the fourth quarter that... many forget happened in 2021 in the stadium. Many forget that there was just all dogs left in the fourth quarter. Many forget.
Is that what happened?
Certain people said that was what happened.
I should probably know this off the top of my head, but I think Ole Miss might be one of the only teams that Kirby has not beaten. Because I know he lost to them year one. And we know how the SEC those rotations work. Like we still haven't gone to College Station to play Texas A&M, so I'm not sure if Georgia's played Ole Miss since that year one. I'll have to look that up. But I think there's some revenge factor from 2016 and that Chad Kelly team.
Well, what was the last home loss for Georgia? Who was it?
Last home loss was South Carolina, 2019.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. That's 4 years, man.
And I think that's the only one since Kirby's year one. I think he's only lost one game at home since year one, if I'm not mistaken. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's accurate.
Goodness gracious. Elsewhere, Matt Green, I have this question for you. This is right up your alley. So Florida State dominates Wake Forest yesterday. UNC loses, just throws a game away against Georgia Tech on the road late. And that was a great call by me. Not to pat myself on the back, but I put them on the pick'em because I was like, folks, this game's going to be weird. I don't know if y'all are circling this in your calendar, but anyone who doesn't think Georgia Tech, North Carolina is not going to be absurd, you're not paying attention to these two teams. Like, this is absolutely has the recipe for a disaster for North Carolina. And I didn't pick North Carolina to lose this game outright, but I said on the pod, I was like, just circle this one.
You did take Tech against the spread.
Okay, well, there you go. I also put Clemson and North Carolina State on the pick'em because I was like, I don't know if people know this or not. This is a bad game for Clemson. They've struggled at NC State in the past, and I don't care what this NC State team looks like. Clemson, this offense is just a train wreck. With all that being said, so Clemson and North Carolina both lose on the road here. If Florida State doesn't remain perfect, will they get left out in the college football playoff? Because this conference is pretty terrible. I've been thinking about that this weekend. I think Florida State has to go undefeated to make the college football playoff because of what's happened to the conference around them. Do you agree?
Yes, I think I think I do. It's funny how I feel like we do this every year, and it's just like, if there's like 6 undefeateds at the end of the year, I don't know what we're going to do. And then it just seems to work itself out. Someone loses, and obviously Oklahoma, we'll get to them.